Thanks so much for watching or listening. My name is Josh, and this is the first of a short 7-part series we're calling the Jesus Family Orientation. This is for those who are interested in the Jesus family. Maybe you want to find out more about it or how to start one. Or honestly, maybe someone just sent you this link and said, hey, here's something I've heard about, or here's something I'm wanting to start. Check it out and let me know what you think. In this first video, I want to try to answer 3 simple questions. What is the Jesus family? Where does it come from? And who is it for? So what is the Jesus family? The best way I can describe it is the Jesus family is a way to do church that's so ancient, it's actually new. What do I mean by that? Well, when we think of church today, we tend to think of addresses and buildings and steeples and programs and pastors and pews. But that's not how it was in the beginning. When you look back at the very first believers recorded in the New Testament book of Acts, they didn't have any of the modern comforts or the trappings that we enjoy today. The earliest Christians in Acts chapter 2 didn't have Christian radio. They didn't have seminary-trained pastors. They didn't even have seminaries to train their pastors. They didn't have programs. They didn't have kids' ministries. They didn't have places to sit and air-conditioned rooms to enjoy beautiful singing and songs and live music and teaching in. They didn't even have the Bible the way that we have it today because the New Testament had not yet been written. So this earliest church, without any of the modern conveniences that we have, do you know what they did? They changed the world. And so the Jesus family is an attempt to go back to that way, a way to do church that's so ancient, it's actually new, and a way to do church that's so ancient, that's why we don't even call it a church. It's a family. So that's what the Jesus family is. Now, where does it come from? It comes from Acts 2, specifically Acts 2:42. In the book of Acts, chapter 2, Luke records the coming of the Holy Spirit and the promise that was made by Jesus to his disciples fulfilled in the first several verses of Acts 2, and the Holy Spirit comes down in power. Signs and wonders begin to happen, and a crowd shows up, which tends to happen when signs and wonders occur. Peter, one of the disciples, preaches the very first sermon, and in Acts 2:41, Luke records that those who believed were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. And thus the church was born. And if you don't like mega churches, you probably wouldn't have liked the earliest church because it went from 0 to 3,000 in just one day. But that incredible victory and success also led to, I think, the first church's problem. Meaning, how do you disciple and help grow 3,000 brand new believers? These were Jewish believers from all over the Roman world. Many of them had not sat under the teaching or heard or maybe even seen Jesus when he was alive on the earth. So how do you help 3,000 brand new Christians grow in their faith, which is the responsibility of the church? Another way to ask it is, how do you do church for these 3,000 brand new believers? Well, Luke records that. In Acts 2:42, he says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. That's where the Jesus family comes from, Acts 2:42. The 4 foundational practices of the earliest church was the apostles' teaching. They gathered together in the temple courts and they heard the apostles teach, and we have their teachings written down for us in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So their earliest teaching wasn't just a verse-by-verse exposition of the Old Testament or the Old Covenant. It was helping people to think and act and love like Jesus because their teaching was exclusively focused on Jesus. They devoted themselves to fellowship, not just in the sense that we understand it today where everyone was together and united and they were all getting along, but there's an element of sacrifice and service. And the earliest church didn't sacrifice and serve an institution and expect the institution to meet their needs in return. They gave and they sacrificed for each other. And the breaking of bread was this beautiful ritual that Jesus gave them, actually the only ritual that Jesus gave them, to commemorate his life and death and resurrection. And more than that, his incredible love for them in this new covenant, this new religion following Jesus was absolutely rooted in love, the love that Jesus had and still has for them and for us. And they devoted themselves to prayer. Not just prayers, God, would you help me on my test, or God, would you help me get that raise or that promotion? they prayed big, audacious prayers. Prayers like we see in Acts 4 when they said, God, would you fill your servants with great boldness, and would you stretch out your hands to heal and perform miraculous signs and wonders through the name of your servant Jesus. The earliest church devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. And the Jesus family aims to go back to those 4 foundational practices. Without all the extra stuff, without all the modern conveniences that we enjoy in church today, can we go back to those 4 foundational practices found in Acts 2:42? And can those 4 practices still change us and still change the world? That's where the Jesus family comes from. And lastly, I want to answer, who is it for? Well, in short, the Jesus family is for everyone. But in particular, we are searching for those who want to follow Jesus, but they might have lost faith in the church. For whatever reason, knowing that there are so many good churches out there, for whatever reason, your experience in your church, maybe it burned you or scarred you or traumatized you in a way that you haven't necessarily given up on God or even on Jesus, but you look around at the churches or your local church experiences and there needs to be something more. I want to find something more, something different. And so the Jesus family aims to be more than just a church in its modern iteration and all the connotations and sometimes even the baggage that comes with that word. We want to be a family. We want to help you follow Jesus and find family. The Jesus family is for those who want to follow Jesus but might have lost faith in the church. And if that's you, well, then we would love for you to be a part. And hopefully in this short video that I've piqued your interest enough that you might think, okay, I might want to check one of these out. Well, I've got better news for you than that. More than just helping you join a Jesus family, I want to challenge you to consider praying and thinking about starting a Jesus family right where you are to reach your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, to help them follow Jesus and find family. How do I start a Jesus family? Well, that's the next episode. Keep watching and or listening. Thanks.